Dear participants, we can call upon the next presenter, Ms. Sabila Nilsson, on the topic of tobacco use and non-communicable disease, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes prevalence in Boko district, Uganda, implications for policy. I may call upon Ms. Sabila Nilsson to present the paper in the public health stream. Ms. Sabila, please turn on the video. Yeah, thank you so much, sir, and please share your screen.
Thank you so much. I have the pleasure to attend this workshop. I want to thank the team.
Thank you, sir. I can see your video as well as your audio is good. And please share your screen so that I can check and confirm here.
Thank you. Is that okay now?
The screen is sharing now. Yes, good to go. Very good. Please proceed, sir. Stage is yours.
Thank you so much, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sabila Nelson from Uganda. I am an alumni of Texila American University awaiting graduation. However, I have the pleasure to present this study on tobacco use and non-communicable disease prevalence. That's basically cardiovascular diseases and diabetes prevalence in Boko district, Eastern Uganda. You're welcome. Tobacco use in, this is a study that was conducted in this part of the country. It is an easternmost district in Uganda, bordering another country in East Africa called Kenya. And according to literature, we read that tobacco is responsible for over 7 million global deaths per year. And this one has led to increase in non-communicable diseases, especially, or including cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Tobacco per se, as you see in this pictorial, contains over 7,000 chemicals, and these ones have very dangerous ingredients in them. It has been implicated in the cause of mainly diabetes, as you see in this picture to the side, that's to the left. It has been implicated on heart complications, and it is further compounded by the fact that tobacco has been packaged in very many other forms. So this one has made control of tobacco particularly difficult in many parts of the world, because as you look at smoking, they've also adapted chewing tobacco. They have adapted a snuff that is dry. We have moist snuff, which is usually pushed through the nose. Black twist, loose leaves, chewing tobacco, sinuous and dissolvable tobacco. Now these ones have come in different flavors that actually tend to disguise the flavor of nicotine or the smell of tobacco itself, and you find a smell similar to menthol, which becomes a bit attracted to users. Much as the world over is struggling to control tobacco use, having the frameworks in itself is not enough, but we have continued to have incidences of tobacco abuse, tobacco misuse, and this one have been so harmful to the health of our people because implementation has slightly been difficult. The world has come out the framework for control on tobacco convention. That was in 2003. It was later ratified by many other countries, including Uganda. So much so that in 2015, Uganda came up with the Tobacco Control Act, which contextualizes the global framework for tobacco control into the Ugandan context so that it can be used to stop tobacco or control tobacco use in Uganda. This was subsequently followed by the regulation in 2019, where we have statutory instruments to the effect that having a control act alone without specifying the practicability of this implementation cannot yield results. So the point we are at now is how best we can implement the provisions in the Tobacco Control Act to reduce tobacco use in the country. What is the problem in this? The problem is that in this district of Buko, during a survey between between, that was in June 2020, records revealed that there was an increase, a dramatic increase in non-communicable disease, including cardiovascular diseases and diabetes. This one has increased up to a tune of 43.4%. That is up from 0.6% in 2013 to 1.06% in 2018, respectively. This one spells doom, so that if the increasing rate is not abated, it means we are heading for disaster, because this is almost a twofold increase in prevalence on non-communicable diseases. And we blame tobacco use as one of the factors that has accelerated. In regard to this, therefore, if we shall continue to drag feet on implementation of the policies that we have, it means that the continuous consumption of tobacco is likely to increase the incidences even further and pose more far-reaching effects upon the individual health, upon the health systems that we have, and upon our economy as well. This is further compounded by the fact that the district has had various other challenges of infectious diseases, basically malaria, HIV, AIDS, and also other NCDs like cancer and chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. When trying to assess this from the literature, you find that a critical search and assessment, that's in form of assessment and analysis of books, articles, periodicals, conference papers, and documents that we have at place on NCDs, particularly in association with the tobacco use. You find that none of this literature points to the situation in bookwork. It means this is a maiden research in this area, and it gives a pointer that the future is not very good for this district. Methodology. During methodology, you look at the research design. Actually, I prefer the cross-sectional population-based study, which determined the prevalence of non-communicable diseases in the district, particularly CVDs, that is cardiovascular conditions and diabetes, in relation to tobacco use in the district. The study population included, actually targeted male adults above the age of 31 years, both male and female, estimated at a population of 18,763 people. I employed a two-stage sampling, that's a random, simple random system, where out of the 18 sub-counties, I added to 0 onto 2 sub-counties randomly. I got, I further went to identifying the parishes. I targeted 1 parish per sub-county. So using the sample random sampling, I had to find out 2 parishes, 1 from each of the 2 sub-counties for the study. The methods of data collection included quantitative self-reported approach using semi-structured questionnaires. So this, actually, I used questionnaires, but on a face-to-face, on one-to-one with the respondents. So this was semi-structured, but self-reported. So they would ask the respondents on their particular conditions of interest, and they would respond on a one-on-one. So the methods of data analysis used SPSS, that is version 20, where I generated simple descriptive statistics using the proportions and frequency, and then distribution for analysis. So further analysis was used in Fisher's exact statistical tests, because some of these respondents were less than 5, and for purposes of precision, it was important to use a more direct and more specific statistical test. That was Fisher's exact test. And in other ones where we had multiple responses, like the same item being responded in a number of ways, I had to use the analysis of variance. That was ANOVA, and the precision was estimated at 95% confidence interval. That is giving an error margin of 0.05. When I was trying to discuss, you find that most of the respondents were above 31, as I agreed. So between 31 and just a moment. 31 to 40 had 178 respondents, that was 45.8%. And then 41 to 50 of the respondents were about 89, that was 24% of the respondents. The age 51 to 60 had about 46 of them, that was 12.4%, while 61 to 70 were 33, that reflected a percentage of 8.9. And similarly, we had a population of 71% of the respondents, which were about 33 in number, that was 8.9%. So of these respondents, 201 were males, that was the majority, and then the females were 171, that was 45.8%. When you look at the education level of the respondents, about 12% had no education. They had not attained any formal education, that was 3.2%. And then at least primary education was at 19.4%, that is 72 in number. Then ordinary level, that is up to senior 4 in our, according to our curriculum here, 194, that is 25.3%. And then advanced level, that's A level, where 74, that's 19.9%. And then university and tertiary were 119, that was 32.1%. So in a nutshell, you find that this population, the population was like enlightened, were educated. So the marital status, 306,097% were married. That's almost the whole population of the respondents, but merely 11 of them, 3% were not married, though one did not choose to respond. We have several tribes in this district, and the predominant tribe is called the Sabins, and that one we had about 352, that was 94%, and other minor tribes included 10% called Papukusu, we had 1.3% at Sitesot, we had Bagisu, that's 4%, 1%. Employment status, 172, or 46% were not employed. Were employed either by government or non-government organizations, while 199, that is 53.6%, were self-employed. I developed a research hypothesis, and this one was basically an alternate hypothesis, which indicated that tobacco use was attributed to prevalence of NCDs, that's specifically CVDs and diabetes. So while I was conducting the study, and the findings later on proved a significant association between basically smokeless tobacco and diabetes, and this was established at a p-value of 0.025, and being less than the 0.05, it means this was particularly significant. Therefore, it tried to justify a relationship between tobacco, and it means the hypothesis was put correctly. But on the other note, the relationship between smoked tobacco, that is the tobacco smoking, and diabetes, was not associated with both smoking and there was no significant association established between both smoke and smokeless tobacco and cardiovascular events. It means that chewing tobacco, snuff tobacco, the one that does not involve smoke, was seen to be positively associated with the NCDs and diabetes. Likewise, smoking tobacco, like cigarette use, was not seen to be associated with either cardiovascular events or diabetes. This one gave p-values greater than 0.05 in the figures of 0.535 and 0.722 respectively. So this one couldn't demonstrate an association. These findings seem to be in agreement with the study that was conducted by Kate et al. In 2016, who linked smoking to insulin resistance as a result of central adiposity, hence high blood pressure. It is important to note that tobacco has many chemicals, and these chemicals tend to affect our body differently. When you look at issues of the relationship between the tobacco use and diabetes, it is very, very likely that the biggest problem or the casualty in this is insulin resistance, because nicotine that is found in tobacco is seen to cause inflammation in the DNA. This one affects the way insulin communicates or performs its role in changing the sugars in the body to storable forms in form of glycogen, either in the liver or under the subcutaneous fats in the form of fats. So if the continuous use of tobacco is not checked, it means that it will continuously affect the way in which insulin responds to its cardinal responsibility in the human body. Alternatively, other schools of thought believe that insulin gives commands to the liver to store the excess sugar, which is not supposed to appear in the blood in excess. But if it doesn't, it therefore means that more of the insulin must be produced because the level at which it is working becomes tolerated. It calls for more insulin to be produced from the liver, from the pancreas, therefore gives the pancreas more work. And this one eventually leads to exhaustion in the pancreas and gives us some more complications in the form of organ failure. It has also been linked that as more starch is stored in the liver and others stored under the subcutaneous layer, it leads to central adiposity, where the center of where all the organs are around the abdomen becomes creates more deposits for fats. And these fats, when they become more, it means that insulin will find difficulty in trying to facilitate the entrance of sugar into the cells to kickstart the process of glycolysis in the cells. So this one alone tries to explain the circumstance under which tobacco use may be linked to diabetes in the human body. This study is significant to apprise planners and the policymakers so that during policy formulation and framework for prevention and management of NCDs, they are better informed. Now, what's the direction for this? The direction calls that we conduct more research targeting bigger samples, because this was kind of an academic within a small frame, and it was also limited by time. So in future, we need to maybe embrace a population kind of a survey so that we can reach out to more people, get a bigger population, and that's what will clear inconsistencies in the findings, especially in the side of non-communicable disease association, lack of association with the tobacco use. In conclusion, the use of tobacco products has been demonstrated to be a factor in increased blood sugar. And although tobacco couldn't reduce the relationship with the cardiovascular diseases, it means there's still quite much to do. That's to demonstrate the further relationship. Much as more literature points to that positive relationship, methodological issues could have limited the findings here, and maybe the fact that this was a self-reported study where people choose what to report, more especially in societal terms, social acceptability. What does somebody feel should report in order to? Others could not even understand that this is basically academic progression. But in future, they need to conduct a survey at the population level, can be able to help us to get a clear way forward so that we can be able to check the increase in non-communicable diseases. Contextualization and rollout is the way to go, and also a pricing effective means to address policy implementation gaps. So like I said earlier on, having frameworks in place does not tantamount a change of behavior unless implementation is effected. So at this time, it is important to go ahead and look at the implementation gaps as well as contextualize and roll it out to the entire population using the upper structures at central government level, lower structures at lower local government levels, and then also in broadening the stakeholder approach to bring all actors on board. I have a few references that are indicated here. I want to thank you so much. Thank you. Merci. Kitos. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Nelson. It's a wonderful presentation on the topic of tobacco use and non-communicable disease, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes prevalence in Bokos District, Uganda. Implication for policy. Dear participants, please raise a question in the Q&A chat box for answering on that. And also, we open the poll for the presentation done by dear Nelson. Please poll for him also. And meantime, please type your email ID or dear Nelson, so that if anybody having any questions or concerns, they can contact you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I received the first question here. High taxes on importation of tobacco into the country will serve as a deterrent for importing trims and will therefore reduce the circulation of tobacco and tobacco use in Uganda, hence reduction in cardiovascular disease. Do you have the percentage of tax levied by the government on the importation of tobacco into the country?
Thank you so much. The instruments, the statutory instruments that we do have in place now clearly stipulate a higher taxation for tobacco products to deter circulation. Like I earlier on said, the biggest problem here is no longer the law or the regulatory framework, but the problem now is implementation of the framework. And then secondly, much as we stop or we regulate the importation, we also have locally produced tobacco, which needs to be handled within the country or at a local level. So this one actually, a combination of this or a hybrid of these interventions will help us actually to maintain or to avert the use of tobacco in the country. Thank you.
You have another question in the chat box. Please, how did you measure precisions?
Precision in the
so on a NB, please clarify your question here, please, one more time.
I'm not getting the question clear, sir.
Please, how did you measure precisions?
The precision of the documents, research instruments.
It's a half question. Okay, leave it. You have another question. Is there any solution to eliminate tobacco apart from tax?
Yeah, apart it spells we have a great a package. The fight against tobacco or the legislation against tobacco use is a package. When you look at it looks at accessibility to tobacco. It looks at the packaging of the tobacco. We look at the warnings, the labelings on the tobacco. So we expect that a packaged tobacco should indicate the consequences. That is as a result of tobacco use. For example, we expect in the package, as agreed internationally and local and nationally, that a package of tobacco should contain what happens in the lungs, a pictorial of the extent of harm as a result of the various chemicals in tobacco. It should indicate what happens to our oral health. It should indicate what happens to our, like you saw in my second slide, you saw a cracked heart, a picture of a cracked heart. That is what is required of a person who is going to use and must know the consequences. But these guys of this and packaging it to look as if it is a very good product is where is the direction we are heading. So we also have to look at linkages of how we can stop and also alternatives of how we can cease tobacco use. So this package is complete. It is more than taxation only. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I have an participant to ask a question to you directly. So I call upon Ms. Oni NEB.
So
1 minute, sir.
I have shared my contacts, and in case
Yes.
there is more information, I am available to answer.
Okay, Mr. Oniye. Okay, you have another question. The disparity between what you observed in terms of association of tobacco with CBD in contrary to published works. So can you elaborate why?
The association between tobacco use and CVDs is documented in the literature all over the world. However, more findings on this one is also indicated in the full report, that is the full article, which is yet to be published and will be available as soon as the publication is done. Is it,
okay. Please, I'm here to clarify my question. Thank you very much.
Please
well
continue.
done for your well done for your great study and presentation. But in the course of the results presentation, you mentioned precision for ANOVA. Is it under results or methodology? You mentioned precision for ANOVA. So I was wondering how you were able to estimate precision.
I don't.
Is it clearer?
Just a minute. Let me see if what it is saying.
Okay. After when you mentioned Fisher,
no, that was
you used Fisher exact because of the slide, but you mentioned precision under ANOVA.
This could have been maybe during association correlation where tobacco use and diabetes was found to
you mentioned precision under ANOVA. You can go back to the slide, or you never mind. It was a great presentation. Thank you.
Welcome. Let me get back to.
Thank you so much.
The slide and see what happens.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presentation, dear Nelson. And you can unshare your screen and make yourself as a participant.